everyone, welcome back to WsCube. In our today's session, we will be starting with a new topic that is called as JSON or JSON. So before we start this topic, let's have a small discussion on what we have learned in our previous session. So in our previous module, we learned all the concepts of OOPS, we learned what is object-oriented programming, we learned methods, we learned classes, we learned inheritance, we learned encapsulation, polymorphism, getter and the setter method, and lastly we did the problem solving as well in our previous module. So I hope guys that you guys have no doubts and no questions from our previous session. And now today onward we will be starting with a new topic that is called as JSON in Python. Now let's first understand that what is JSON over here.
Before that, if you want to become a successful data analyst and if you want to learn from our experts live, then you can call on the given number or you can fill the form that is provided in our description. Not just that, with our every batch you will be getting 2 demo classes for free.
Now guys, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Don't confuse that it is something related to the JavaScript. Yes, why its name is JavaScript Object Notation? Because it is similar to the JavaScript objects. That's why it has been named with JavaScript Object Notation. JSON is a syntax for storing and interchanging data. It is a universal data structure. Now what does universal data structure mean? That all the languages, all the modern day languages are compatible with using JSON inside them. Now understanding it in this way, that what JSON does is JSON allows us to interchange information. JSON allows Python objects to be converted into JSON objects, and then JSON objects are again converted back to our Python objects, and some operations can be performed on them. Now what operations can be performed on them, where this JSON is used, let's understand that. JSON over here is majorly used in application programming interface, that is our API keys. Now let's understand what APIs are. APIs allows us to send data to the servers and then receive it back as well. So if you want to receive a data from a server or send a data to a server, when we create websites, when we create mobile applications, we have mobile applications, we have the front ends, we have everything inside them. But where does this data comes? The data comes from the server. Now in this server, it is stored in the format of a JSON files, which can then be converted to our Python files or any language that we want it inside. So here APIs helps us. APIs are created with 50% or even more of JSON, and they allows us to interchange or exchange the data. For example, nowadays when we use WhatsApp, we use Facebook, or if we send messages to anyone, we check our weather in our phone. Everything over there is an API. All the data that is coming over there, all the data that is going over there, the sending of messages, the receiving of messages, the checking of the weather, or anything related to the internet is happening with the help of an API. So API internet plays a very major role. So understand it in this way, without internet there is no API. That means no data interchange can happen without the help of the internet. So basically all our applications, the applications are connected to the internet. With the help of this internet, we send our data to the servers, and then servers interprets them, performs necessary operations on them, and then directs it back to us or directs it back to the person we are sending that data to. So this is what servers do. In between we have API. API helps in the data exchange over here, and JSON over here is used inside our APIs. To generate APIs, JSONs are used. So JSON is basically a syntax over here that is used inside the APIs. The syntax which is used over there is the syntax of JSON over here. JSON is used to store data. Its syntax is used to store and interchange the data. Now plus point of using JSON is that JSON is compatible with so many languages that are there out there, especially the languages that allows us to create websites or that allows us to work on the web. So for example, we have Python, we have PHP, we have .NET, we have Android. All these are compatible with the JSON. Now, understanding more about JSON over here, JSON exists in the form of a dictionary. That means it exists in the form of a key value pair over there. And the data exists in the form of a key value pair. JSON exists in the form of a string. So inside this string, this key value data pair is stored. So when we write any data in the form of a dictionary and we put it inside the string, yes, it can be called as a JSON data, and it is useful when you want to transmit data across a network. As I told you that there are so many platforms that support JSON, there are so many languages that can work with the JSON. So Python is one of them. In Python also we can use JSON. Python supports JSON with the help of a built-in package that we have over here, that is JSON. And to use it in our program, we need to use import JSON keyword. I'll give a small example to you to understand JSON in a simple way. So let's have a look on a small example over here. So let's say I have an application over here. I have an application and there is a server over here, and this application sends the data or receives the data from the server. Now between this there is an API. API is used over here which does what? Suppose this application is using Python. Okay, so this Python is converted into JSON data, because here inside the server all the data has been saved. All the API stores data, right? So all the data that has been saved over here is saved in the format of JSON. Right. So what we do when we want to send a data over here, what we do, we convert Python to JSON, and then the data gets stored over here in the format of a JSON. And when we want to use our data, we want to bring that data back to our application and we want to use it in our language, we convert this JSON to Python and take it back to application. This process over here of converting Python to JSON is called as serialization. And this process of converting JSON to Python is called as deserialization. It can be also called as encoding and decoding. So we have serialization, which converts Python object into JSON, and then we have deserialization, which converts JSON to again back to Python object, so that we can use it in our application. So I hope guys what is JSON is clear to you, and where do we use JSON is also clear to you. What is an API is clear to you. API does not play much role over here. We will be not using API, but just to make you understand that in future if you deal with API, if you go to the field of web development or even the Android development, or let's say iOS development also, there everywhere wherever the data exchange is required, everywhere API will be used. And if API will be used, then yes, you will be hearing JSON term also over there. So yeah, so that's why JSON over here is important to understand that what JSON is. JSON is nothing but it's syntax. It is syntax of storing data, and it allows us to interchange the data and it is compatible with various languages. So in our next session, we will be learning how we can convert our Python object file or Python data into JSON. So stay connected guys, and I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.